Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another video. Now we will be looking on the uh, what each team would have done in their retention of players for IPL 2025. The first point, I want to make, you know, is that while there are much talk about the players who have been retained, right? They are equally, the same talk about the players the teams would not have retained. And we are going to be looking on some iconic players like Rishabh Pant was not, retained. We have Mitchell Stark, Josh Butler, Arshdeep Singh would not have been retained, KL Rahul, Shreyas Iyer, the list goes on and on. Mohamed Siraj, Liam Livingston, and so forth. Right, so this makes the mega auction a very interesting one. And let us look on what each team has done as it relates to their retention. So the first up will be Mumbai Indians, very predictable franchise. Anyone, to be honest with you, can tell the players that Mumbai would retain, and the only uncertainty for me where Mumbai is concerned would have been, whether or not they would retain an uncapped player, but they did not, right? And I just want to go back through some notes from the last video as it relates to the 2025 retention policy. As I would have said in the last video, the first for each team is Indian rupee 124, right? Crore. And each team has, they can sign only 8 overseas players, and the team or a franchise can have a maximum of 25 players, right? And they can only have 2 uncapped players, uncapped Indian players, right? So that's a policy surrounding the teams. So I mean, Mumbai Indian would have retained Bumrah at the highest amount, and that is, a bit, I would say, expected. Bumrah is one of the best T20 bowlers around the world. He is a star. Mumbai. He has been in Mumbai since 2013, right? And he's the second leading wicket taker in the IPL history, right? So that's a no-brainer, and they would have retained him at 18 crore, right? Hardik Pandya would have been retained. I suspect he will, be the captain, and they would have retained him for 16.36 crore, right? Rohit Sharma, Tilak Varma, and Surya Kumar Yadav, they would have retained. So and as we know that once you would have sent in the retained players, at the retention deadline on October 31st, when you would have retained the most they will take from the purse is 75 crore, right? If a team would have spent over that 75, then the higher of the amount what the franchise would have spent along with what IPL would have taken from the purse. They would compare the two, and they would take that amount from the purse, right? So Mumbai would have spent 75 crore up at the retention deadline, right? So based on what Mumbai would have retained, right? They would have going into the auction, they have only 45 crore left to spend, and they have one eligible RTM, and I would have explained what RTM is in the other video, and I will pin it in the top right hand corner of your screen so you can go back and look on what RTM means, right? So they can use that RTM to get one uncapped player, because they would have retained all 5 cap player as already, right? So that is Mumbai. As I said, they would have retained Pandya as captain, and to be honest with you, I don't think Mumbai will be different compared to next year compared to this year. They would have been very predictable, as I said before, and the players that were retained were really expected. All right, let's move on to Chennai, right? Chennai is one of the franchise that they likes to keep their own players. They respect their players a lot, and we can see the reason why too, because they would have retained Ruturaj Gaikwad, the standing captain, for 18 crore. If he goes into the auction, I honestly don't think he will be purchased for 18 crore. So Chennai would have spent invest heavily in their captain, and that shows that they would respect his position as captain. They would have retained Shivam Dube. We know that Dube would have had a good season, right? So much so that he was included in the Indian T20 World Cup squad. In fact, he was included in the playing 11 for some of the matches. So he would have had a good year. So they would have retained him. Ravindra Jadeja is a little bit surprised for me, retaining him for 18 crore. But as I said before, one of the reasons why Chennai is such a successful franchise, right, is the respect that they have shown to their players over the years, right? And spending so much money, even though Jadeja, in my estimation, is on the other side of his career, but they still believe and have faith in his ability, right? And they would have broken the bank to spend 18 crore to retain him. Also, MS Dhoni, they would have retained him as an uncapped player. As I said in the last video, an uncapped player can be a retired player who have not played international cricket for the last 5 years. So that's why Dhoni, would have ended up in that category, right? And so Chennai would have spent 65 crore on, their retention. And so going into the auction, they only have 55 crore to spend, and they would have had one RTM available to them to buy one cap player or an uncapped player, right? And as I said, so CSK going into the auction with 20 slots, right? And 7 for overseas. 7 of that slot out of the 20 would be for overseas players, right? As it relates to Mumbai would have gone in with 20 slots, and they have 8 of that 20 for overseas players. All right, let's move on to Sunrisers. But before I move to Sunrisers, I think they could use that RTM to retain back Devon Conway or Tikshana. It's up to them what they will do, but they have that option going into the auction. As it relates to Sunrisers, they have made a big statement this year, retaining Heinrich Klaassen for 23 crore. That's serious amount of money for one player. But we know that Klaassen is one of the best middle order power hitters in world cricket. another standout player in that category would be Nicholas Puran. And we would have seen, and we will get to Puran, see what, how much money would have been spent to retain Puran. So I think SRH did a good job though, as it relates to Travis Head, because I was wondering if they would have spent so much on Class and how much they would have spent on Travis. They would have spent 14 core on Travis, right? And that, I think that was good negotiation there. Nitish Reddy retention is a no-brainer. You see that Nitish Reddy has been a very good player, so much so that he is currently playing in the tour down under, that Warda Gavaskar series, right? And I think SRH retention is similar to what Mumbai would have done. They would have gotten 3 top order batsmen, 1 all-rounder, and 1 fast bowler, right? And very good core of players, to be honest with you, similar to Mumbai. And then I think, as at the retention, the Sunrisers would have spent 75 core, right, out of their purse. So they have 45 going into the auction, right? And they have 1 RTM option for the auction, and that can be used to buy 1 uncapped player, right? And so they would have 20 slots going into, right, the auction, and 5 of those slots would be for overseas players, because they would have retained 2 overseas players already in Klassen. In fact, 3, as they have a maximum of 8, so they would have retained Klassen, Travis Head, Pat Cummins. So that is the reason why they have only 5 going into the auction, right? Let's move on to RCB. RCB is, they paid a massive fee to retain their linchpin. That is Virat Kohli. I suspect that they will not be using Faf du Plessis this year, so I suspect probably this year Virat would be the captain for RCB. But let's see. They would have shown, good faith in signing Yash Dayal. They have been investing in that youngster, and they have shown good faith in Rajit Patidar, and I hope that he will justify that faith this year in playing some good cricket for the franchise. To be honest with you, I thought they would have had room for Mohamed Siraj. Not sure what is going on there. I thought they would have retained Siraj, but that's not the case. So only 3 players RCB would have retained going into the auction. So 37 core would have be subtracted from their purse, so they would have 83 core going into the auction. With 3 RTM available to them, they can buy 1 uncapped player with the RTM, or 2 capped players, or 3 capped players. So they have 3 options there with the RTM, right? So not much there for RCB. They have a lot of money to spend in the auction. So let's see how that will unfolds for them. All right, so let's move on to Delhi Capital. That's Delhi Capital. The biggest news coming out of Delhi Capital is that they did not retain Rishabh Pant, and I suspect that something may be going on between Rishabh Pant and the franchise. I'm not sure what is going on there. Probably negotiation would have broken down. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating here. But they would not have retained, such a class player as Rishabh Pant, right? But I think they would have done well to retain Aksar Patel, and Kuldeep Yadav, right? These 2 spinners are 2 good, spinners, and they have shown faith in them, right? Tristan Stubb is one of the most improved player. In fact, he is, even playing in the test cricket for South Africa now. I think he's batting at number 3, right? So they have done a good job there, and Delhi would have spent 43.75 core, and so they have 76.2 core to spend in the auction, and they have 2 RTM available to them. They can buy 1 handicap player because they would have retained 1 handicap player already, Abhishek Correll. They would have retained him, so they have 1 left, and they can use the RTM also to get 1 cap player, and or they can get 2 cap players, right? So that's the option that they have with regards to the RTMs, right? DC has 21 slots going into the auction, and 7 of those 21 slots would be for overseas players. And the reason they have 21 slots is because they would have retained 4 players, and they can have a maximum of 25 players in their squad, right? So that's where I will stop here for now. I will be doing the other 5 franchise. I will I think one of the main news coming out of the of India is that DC, there may be some back and forth at the auction with DC and Punjab for Shreyas Iyer. I think Punjab has very keen interest in Shreyas Iyer because I think they need a captain. And so let's see how the auction will unfold. Continue to stay tuned as we will provide more information on IPL 2025. Peace.